Alright, welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 270. Yeah, basically, this is something I'm going to be continuing throughout the rest of my Super Sentai stuff until I finish up the stuff that came before Gokaiger. Discussing the tribute episodes. Am I going to discuss the ones I've already, let's just say, already done already, like Bad Fever J or Gal Ranger? No, not really. I have no plans for that at all. Basically, whatever series that I finish up, I will work on the tribute episode. I will watch that and do my thoughts from the perspective of the series I was watching. This time, Boukenger. We're here discussing episode 21 for the series, which, here's a surprise, we actually bring in an actual villain. Here's Timothy, you might find interesting. This is the first and only time in the main Gokaiger series that they bring back an actual villain. Not some son of a previous villain. The actual villain gets resurrected for one episode. So the episode starts off with Marvelous wanting the prophecy from Navi. He's like, nah, ask nicely. And then Akashi sneaks to the ship, and he's like, what are you doing on my ship? How'd you get in here? He's like, I can easily infiltrate this thing, no problem, because he's an adventurer. And of course, Ki, who was a big Super Sentai fanboy, proceeds to ask for his autograph, which of course Akashi has no problem with that at all. He proceeds to sign it, and explains basically he would like the Gokaiger to help him because he doesn't have his powers anymore. Look for Precious. They explain what it is, basically treasures, basically from the series. Okay. It's called the Heart of Hades. And of course, also, believe it or not, the Zenkiak want this too, to revive some dead soldiers. Okay. So, we have all 6 people go over the mountains. And then, of course, basically, they counter one of the monsters of the episode. Yes, one of the monsters. Do they have, a monster for this episode? Not really. Yes. Yeah, they don't have a monster for this episode, surprisingly. You might be curious, though, why the heck don't they have basically a monster for this episode? The answer is, I have no idea. They do have the grunt spear in this episode, yes. But as for, let's say, probably should have this one. Let's see. For this episode in particular, there was no action commander for this episode, which is quite interesting. Usually they have an action commander that's a nod to a previous villain, but this is the first episode not to feature one. Yes. Because usually a lot of them would definitely be that, but this one was the first one. Nope, they didn't do that at all. So, they go on mountain, of course, battle the regular grunts of the series. And I have to get past them, and of course the technician who's there, yes, the beautiful female technician, yes, who is referred to as Developmental Tactician Officer Istern. Yeah, she appears in this very episode after missing, she apparently had missed 20. Yeah. Yeah, so then, of course, she basically battles like Gokaiger for a while. Well, so basically, Akashi takes, Marvelous and Luca, where they go into the cave, and they find that the grunts have been taken out by these mysterious swords. And it turns out these were taken out by the Reptile Horde. And they have stolen the heart to revive the Crazy King Reiwa, who has been partially cybernized. He's got a metal thing on his shoulder. One of his horns is broken. And he's like, wait, I thought he died in an explosion. Now, this I think is a hiccup on the writers because yes, it did an explosion, but here's the thing. He was in human form when it happened. He died when the precious bank exploded. That part was omitted for some reason. I'm not sure why. My guess is to avoid spoilers from the events of Boukenger. Yeah, he did die in that particular run at the end, like toward the very end of the series. Matter of fact, he actually died in the third to last episode. And here he is here, revived, with the Hades heart in his chest, and of course they chase him out. And then something quite interesting though. Now, Guy, who is a big Super Sentai fan, he apparently doesn't know anything about seeing the Crazy King Reiwa. I mean, he knows about Boukenger, and the fact that, oh yeah, they do mention this episode that they have met before via like a dream sequence that was done in the 199 Super Sentai Big Battle. Basically, 35th anniversary movie is when they kind of first met. Here it's in person. Yep. Akashi just witnesses the events of this episode. He doesn't actually, like, he doesn't use any of his weapons. Now, here's the thing. Despite the fact he may not have his powers, he can still use some of his, use some of his pistols if he wanted to. Nope. Also, his morpher is not here. Now, that could explain the fact that, well, he lost powers. So maybe he lost the power of the morph, so he left the morph at home. Still has a jacket. Okay. They refer to him as Chief Akashi, despite the fact that the series ended with him no longer being the chief. Did the writer forget that too? Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. So, and then of course, like usual, Gokaiger in the tribute episode transforms into the team, basically, that's tribute for. This being Boukenger. Yep. And they take the heart out. The heart is given to Akashi, who puts it in the same box, to take that box to use in the series, was good continuity nod there. And, well, they had the battle in giant-sized form, which, here's a fun fact. Crazy King Reiwa never went giant-sized form the whole time Boukenger. This is basically him doing this because he's in feral mode. And apparently the Hades are getting the power to do this, despite the fact he never actually did this in the main series, which makes him the second villain to do this. Like, of the four leaders of the factions, the four negative factions in Boukenger, the although they were giant sized with Gaja, he was the only one. And now it's Crazy Reiwa's turn. Like, okay, interesting. Yep, and of course, then they unlock the power for Boukenger, which apparently summons a spirit of the main Megazord. Which Guy does immediately recognize it, which he would recognize that. I'm like, when he sees her, like, oh crap, it's Crazy Reiwa. I thought you died. Like, did they forget to give him a line related to that? Like, he is one of the main villains of Boukenger. He wasn't the final villain per se, but he was one of the main villains. So he gets beaten, and of course Akashi goes his merry way, not seeing again until the Fullwick miniseries that aired just a few years ago. That was his final appearance ever in Super Sentai history. Reiwa, this actually is definitely his last appearance. He never returns after this. Yeah, he's dead. And so is his clan. Yeah, the Dragon Horde, they're gone. They're never seen again. Surprisingly, Dark Shadow does not return for this episode. Probably because they appeared also in that movie because they appeared in the movie. But I'm surprised they didn't. I would have thought, though, they would bring him back for this episode because given the fact they were only one of the four syndicates actually it was still active. But by the time of the Gokaiger versus God movie, they retired from being criminals. I don't get it. It's weird. But I definitely think this was a good episode, definitely. But I felt this stuff was missing from this episode. Like, here's stuff missing. Guy's reaction to seeing the Crazy Reiwa, because he's Super Sentai fan and he doesn't recognize one of the villains. Let's see, what else? Okay. They did mention the fact that Reiwa used to be human. Yeah, all his cool all his really sympathetic backstory he had in Boukenger, not mentioned here. He's the leader of the Dragon Horde, the Reptile Horde. Aside from that, there's like nothing about him. Excuse me. I kind of feel as though a lot of this stuff was missing per se. Maybe just a tease, like, oh, go check out basically Boukenger. You could say this is an advertisement for maybe promote the DVDs Boukenger, probably released at the time. That's possible, but I'm not really sure about that. I also kind of felt this though that maybe Guy should have a little more scene time. He should have, in my honest opinion, he should have gone with Luca and Marvelous to see Crazy Reiwa. That would be interesting. But no, let's have him fight the villains of the series. instead of, dealing with Super Saiyans, or at least he recognizes the chief. And I appreciate the fact that other Super Saiyan tributes, the guy, he has a lot of respect for his senpai. Well, basically, people who came before him. He has a lot of respect for him. Like, all of them. When he meets them in the course series, he's excited to meet them. He immediately recognizes them, and he pays them a lot of respect. He may be a fanboy, but he doesn't get into personal space at all. He respects their history. He does recognize who they are. I'm surprised, basically, they don't follow up what happened in the Space Sheriff Gavin movie. Well, Gokaiger vs. Space Sheriff Gavin. That would have been an interesting follow-up. Like, what happened to these villains after, basically, Guy and Joe broke him out? That would be quite interesting. I'll talk more about that when I talk about, again, Gokaiger vs. Space Sheriff Gavin when I finish this strip. I'll be definitely make sure to talk about that. But definitely really good episode. But let's talk about Boukenger for a while until I talk about that miniseries, which the miniseries itself, the 4-week special, I will not talk about that series until I just finish discussing all the Sentai that came just before that miniseries. Now, I should point out, though, that I have 17 left to go overall for Super Sentai for series left. You thinking 17? Yes, 17 left. The current Sentai, again, Kaizoku, which I'm going to be talking about in the future, that has not officially wrapped up yet, but that is the current Sentai airing right now. But the next one, that's going to be starting next year, the 48th series, Boukenger, Sentai Boukenger. Yeah, but that's not the next Sentai I'm discussing. Oh, no. The next one I'm discussing is going to be Gokaiger. When I discuss the opening few episodes of the series, which I'll talk about that, I will be discussing some fun facts related to this one. Yes, I definitely will be. You'll find out what they are when I finish talking about the first few episodes of the series. It's going to be quite interesting to say the least. Yep. Especially since basically in just a few episodes, we're going to basically count a few monsters, and in general. Yep. Oh, and there is a movie related to the series? Yes, there is a movie. Which, now, I should point out, though, one thing I will not be talking about again, because I have the review of this already, when I talk about, O-Ranger. I will not be discussing the two they had with Gokaiger and O-Ranger. I'm not discussing that again, because I have technically discussed the movie already, so I'm not going to be discussing the movie at all. Simply because, basically, I don't think it's necessary to talk about this movie, so there's that. So I'm going to talk about that next. And, of course, I'll do my first 3 comic corners, and then I'm going to do my 3 anime. Okay? Thanks for you. Bye.